We all want to throw farther, right? Unless you're Garrett Gurthie or Eagle McMahon, who doesn't? They don't need more distance. Those guys can just go hang out in the 700 club. They're just going to embarrass us. But I'm here to give you a little bit of hope in this video. I'm 5'6" and can still throw 450 to 460 feet. I know I have a lot left in me, and if your wingspan is even a little bit bigger, you can probably throw 500 plus given proper technique and practice. I'm going to be analyzing my form in this video to point out the good and the bad, and really emphasize what parts need improvement and which parts you should try to copy. Hopefully you can learn along with me, so let's get right into it. Let's start by looking at a few different views of the throw. Let's slow that first one down a bit. Alright, what are we looking at here? I went through the very tedious process of calculating the position of the disc at each frame in this video, and I converted it to velocity and position versus time. So that's the graph you're looking at. I know it's not a perfect graph, so just ignore the ups and downs and focus on the trend. It's pretty cool to see that about 80% of the speed comes in the last 1/6 of the throw length. This is because, as you can see here, it's moving linearly, but then it's slingshotted forward at the very end, which just gives it that boost of speed. The point I'm trying to make is that the motion of the disc golf throw is very similar to the motion of the cracking of a whip, where the vast majority of the acceleration and the speed is gained in the last fraction of the throw or the whip. Here you see on the left the graph of the cracking of a whip, and on the right my disc golf throw, and the similarities are right there to see. When thinking about this topic, I remembered this video from Smarter Every Day of a whip cracking and making a shockwave. I thought it was really cool how most of the acceleration didn't come until the very end. Also, notice how the lady's hand, which is at the base of the whip, is stopped and all the motion is transferred into the whip itself. The base being stationary and the tip of the whip moving is key when you transfer this logic into the disc golf throw. Imagine your arm as a loose whip and your shoulder is the base of the whip. So my tip number 1 is to keep your shoulders closed during the throw so that the base of the whip is relatively stationary, but the tip of the whip, your disc, accelerates as much as possible. The disc golf throw doesn't require much strength at all. It's more of a quick snapping motion where it's an explosive throw, not necessarily a muscly throw. So make sure you keep your shoulders perpendicular to the target the whole time until your follow through. This will also help a lot with accuracy and prevent misfires. Alright, my tip number 2 is to stop throwing with your arm. And this sounds really weird because it's like, what else are you supposed to throw with? But what I mean by this is, do this exercise right now. Stand flat-footed and pretend to throw with just your arm. Don't use your hips, legs, or core, and see how much power you get. Feels pretty darn weak, right? This is because while your arm delivers the power to the disc, the forces that help turn your arm into a slingshot or a whip come from your legs, contacting the ground, and after that, come through your hips and your core. Everyone always tells you to engage the lower body, but what the heck does that actually mean, right? How does one do that? Like, what muscle are you supposed to push off? I've got a couple of answers for you to go out and try. Some of these might click, but if they don't click for you right away, just leave them. Doesn't matter. Find out which tips work for you. My first one is to bend both your legs slightly during your walk up and then focus on exploding upward off of your legs using your quads right as you plant and throw. This helps you get power from the ground, in my opinion, and it's actually a concrete thing to think about how to physically engage your lower body. But how are you supposed to engage your core? Something that I found really helpful to imagine was a body check in hockey, where your weight is transferring forward and you're shifting your weight from back to front, and you're using your core to transfer that force into whoever you're checking. But instead of transferring the force into another player, you're transferring the force into the disc. So use your legs and core to drive your weight forward, imagining there's another player there.
Let's go!
But imagine you're just trying to hit a watermelon really hard with a disc to explode it open. And finally, I want to talk about the timing of the wind-up. You can see that the disc stays very stationary relative to my body until the final step right here, and that's when I start winding up. It doesn't move before that. Take a look at how my arm is only fully extended for like a couple frames right here before it starts moving forward again. I'll play that in real time so you can see as well. Fully extended and moving forward, like a one continuous motion, and that's the key. The two main practical benefits of proper timing are that it naturally reduces or eliminates rounding and helps generate more snap on your throw. And this is like the rubber band effect that Simon Lizotte loves to talk about. Rounding is such a killer of power and accuracy because your body is in the way when you're trying to explode the disc forward. It also creates a rounded path for the disc as it's accelerating, which just leads to so much inaccuracy, and I know that from experience. Instead of saying stop rounding, I think one of the most effective ways to prevent rounding naturally is to perfect your timing. If your timing is spot on, rounding will be much harder to come by. I'm gonna embarrass myself a bit here, but these are some throws from fall 2019 where my rounding was a lot worse. And this is my throw back in May 2020. Pretty good, except I was still working on getting the timing down. My arm was fully extended or reached back, whatever you want to call it, for a much longer time before I began pulling through. For me, it led to my disc being naturally pulled upward as I was reaching back from my waist level to my chest level. For many others though, reaching back too early causes their disc to naturally move behind them and creates rounding. I know I've been doing a lot of talking, but what should you actually do to fix this? If you have issues with rounding or timing, try reaching back later than you think you have to. While practicing, make a conscious effort to reach back at the last possible moment. It's definitely going to feel really uncomfortable and weird at first, but trust me, it will come with practice and it'll improve your form. If you have an early wind-up like I used to, I found it very effective to just overcompensate during fieldwork to snap myself out of that bad habit. I'm going to quickly detail what I think I should improve about my form, and then I'll summarize my 3 tips at the end of the video. So right here, my back foot I think is pointed too far backward. It doesn't allow me to get as much spring in my hips, so it would be better if my back foot was more perpendicular to the target instead of facing backwards. Tip number 1 is to keep your arm relatively loose and make sure your shoulders stay closed so that you take full advantage of the bullwhip effect when you're throwing. Tip number 2 is to engage your lower body by pushing upwards off your legs during the throw and imagining a body check motion if that works for you. Tip number 3 is to perfect your timing so that your arm is only fully extended for a split second. This helps increase snap and helps reduce rounding. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or things to say about what I said in the video. Anyway, signing out.